I want to talk about gerrymandering. Now, gerrymandering has a very interesting history, which goes back to 1812. There was a representative named Elbridge Gerry, and this was a guy who invented the practice of designing exotic-looking districts, very often districts that look like a snake or a salamander. And because this practice became controversial, the Boston Gazette described it using his name and using the idea of the salamander as a gerrymander. Now, this is something that, of course, both parties do in states in which they have the majority. They draw, since congressional districting is kind of a state process, within the state, they draw districts to favor themselves. Now, recently, a court in North Carolina struck down the Republicans' redistricting or gerrymandering plan. And here is Joe Biden, quoting him. "Voters should choose their representatives, not the other way around." So here's Biden celebrating the decision and implying that gerrymandering is somehow very undemocratic. The Brennan Center, a liberal organization, has also said, quote, "Gerrymandering is deeply undemocratic." And of course, we see time after time people on CNN and MSNBC, gerrymandering is an attack on our democracy. Now, when Biden made his statement, he's very careful to focus only on North Carolina. And in fact, to continue quoting Biden, "For too long, partisan gerrymandering has allowed politicians to rig the political process and draw districts in their favor." But what Biden failed to mention is that in New York, they're doing exactly the same thing. In New York, it's the Democrats that are doing gerrymandering. Now, New York is losing population. People are moving out of New York. And so New York has been losing a little bit in terms of congressional representation. So what they're doing is, despite the loss of representation, they're trying to draw exotic districts in New York, salamander districts, if I can use that phrase. They're trying, for example, to protect Jerry Nadler using gerrymandering. There's a woman, a Republican named Nicole Maliotakis. I think that's how you say her name. In any event, Maliotakis. In any event, she beat Democrat Max Rose narrowly. And so the Democrats are like, oh, we got to help Max Rose win. And so what they're doing is they've stretched out that district to include a very liberal area called Park Slope in Brooklyn. This is supposed to help the Democrat retake that seat. And so the point here is that when it comes to Republican gerrymandering, the Democrats pull out all the stops. Oh, this is voter suppression. They're trying to draw districts to reduce the representation of minority voters, and so on. But as I say, these crazy districts are drawn by Democrats, and they're drawing it not just in New York, but also in Illinois. Now, Republicans, by and large, are not as crafty as Democrats in the way they go about this. And Trump has been outspoken about this. In fact, he says, again, being kind of harsh on Mitch McConnell, he goes, while the Democrats are redistricting to their heart's content, he goes, quote, "The old broken down crow, Mitch McConnell, yikes, sits back and does nothing." So the idea here is the Republicans are the party of lassitude. They are not as energetic and creative as the Democrats in doing the redistricting. Now, on a happier front, the U.S. Supreme Court has blocked a lower court order that tried to prevent Republican gerrymandering in Alabama. The Republicans had redrawn the Alabama districts and in order to maximize Republican chances in Alabama. And a liberal court in Alabama goes, no way, we're striking down this district, went up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled 5-4 that no, the Alabama redistricting is fine. Now, interestingly, in that case, Justice Roberts votes with the liberals, so it's 3 liberals plus Roberts against the other 5 conservatives. And the Alabama redistricting plan stands. Look, this shows the messiness of the democratic process. This is not a case, you can draw these districts in very simple mathematical ways. Think of the way, for example, a school district is organized. There are no snake-like school districts. By and large, you look where the school is. You draw a kind of round circle or circumference around the school. That's the school district. You could draw political districts that way too. And in that way, it would apply equally to Republicans and Democrats. But the system we have now allows both parties, as they dominate particular states, to create gerrymandered districts And as long as they're doing it, I say we should be doing it too.